Hey, we are live. This is Author Life, where you get to know your authors and get to listen to them geek out about their stories. I'm Luke T. Barnett, and today with me is Jonathan Morton. He is a motivational, I don't say motivational speaker for writers, but YouTuber, motivationalist. How's that sound?
I'll take that.
Yeah. So so let me ask you for this first. What's the toughest thing about being an author that you've found?
Ooh, the toughest thing. You hit me with the hardest questions. No, I think the toughest thing, honestly, is kind of getting into that groove of writing. So figuring out, I guess what I've been doing for almost the past year is just figuring out how I write a book. Like, because everybody's like, "Are you a planter? Are you a planner? Are you a um, somebody who just sits down and just writes?" And kind of discovery writing, I guess, is the word for it. And so
Yeah.
just figuring out and testing those out and seeing which ones best kind of work for me. Um, it's been kind of a challenge because sometimes I'll pick one and I'll like kind of force myself to do it, and it might not be working out as well as I plan it to. Otherwise, sometimes it's just time. Making sure to set to work within a schedule and to make that schedule as consistent as you can. Because when it is, this past week I've had a really great example of that where it's been pretty consistent every day. It works out great, but when it's not, sometimes it's harder to get in that writing flow, if you will.
Yeah. So it's like, so you have 4 kids, right?
Hmm.
So is that I imagine that presents a challenge for you
Yep,
finding that regular time.
definitely. They've now that especially now that summer has hit and the kids are going to be home more often and things like that. Um,
All right.
it's a lot of talking with my wife. I mean, without her, I probably would have no time to write, to be honest. She is really great with the kids and having. We talked a little bit earlier about having play dates with the kids and stuff like that. And it's
Yeah.
a lot of it is just communication and setting up like expectations about like, when is it okay for me to write? When can my writing schedule be? And like negotiating that or talking through that so that so I can get some writing done and I can do family time and all that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's the important thing. I think Stephen King said that how did he put it? Writing is not uh, life is not a support for writing. Writing is a support for life, or something like that.
so yeah,
Something
yeah,
like that. Basically, yeah. Basically, intoning that writing isn't all about life. It's like writing is something you do. Life is something your family and stuff is what's important.
yeah. Hmm.
Uh,
Very true.
so do you generally write in the mornings or? Um,
Oh, so that's an interesting question. I used to get yeah, I used to get up at 4:30 in the morning, and then I would write into work, and then after work do family stuff, and then I would write at night too. So that used to be how my schedule happened. Um, Now several months ago, like I used to kind of force that too. That's what I was talking about earlier about kind of forcing it. And
mhm.
because you get up in the morning, you're super productive and all that kind of stuff. At least that's what everybody tells us. And to an extent, I was. I can't complain or say that I wasn't. But recently, after being like a stay-at-home dad for the last almost 6 months now, just how life works out, um, writing, finding a time to write, kind of mid-morning to a little bit later afternoon to when like the kids would come home from like school or preschool or something like that. I found it's been a lot more. It's been better. I feel a little bit more awake. I'm not like
Mhm.
forcing myself to kind of get up and do it. Not that I get up, I get a little bit more sleep. I'm a little bit more relaxed. I don't know. It feels like the flow comes a little bit better. And then at night, I find this helps a lot. Is I might type a little bit or just write a few ideas down, but I mostly read at night. And I feel like that helps generate my mind a little bit better than what I was kind of trying to force to happen. Does that make any
Yeah, that makes a
sense?
lot of sense. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense because that's kind of what I'm doing. I mean, not what you're doing now, but
Mhm,
like I'll write in the morning.
mhm,
But I work second shift, like we were talking earlier.
mhm.
I work second shift, so I don't get home until 10:30, and I don't get to bed until 11:30, 12, because I need to wind down from the day.
Yeah.
But what I've been doing is I've been getting up at 8 and writing for a couple hours
Mm-hmm.
and then writing on my break at work, and then doing some writing after I get home at night, trying to force myself, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
to get some words down. Um, and it may be that better that, like what you've been saying about, reading before I go to bed instead of writing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's just there's a lot of pressure, I think, if you're trying to make a career out of this, to
Exactly.
get those words down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what motivated you to, like, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, and I was gonna say, and that's where you got to find that balance, because you're right. Sometimes you do kind of have to force yourself to write. On a because if you never sat down and just decided to write, you might not get anything done. Um, so I think that
Yeah,
sometimes, I, I, sometimes just getting yourself and going, hey, today I have to get some words down, or today I need to get some stuff down, is not necessarily a bad thing to do either.
yeah.
Yeah.
So is your how about that? Is your struggle with finding your schedule and finding your voice? And we were talking before the show, and you said that you were trying to figure out. You tried different methods, like if you're a plotter or a pantser,
Hmm.
and the different methods. Is your struggle with that and with trying to find time to write? Is that what motivated you to start these YouTube videos about motivating writers?
Yeah, that's a little bit kind of what I was trying to figure out. What's the thing that kind of separates me when I started doing the YouTube stuff? And like I said earlier, I kind of have anybody looking for new videos, I've kind of stopped those for right now. But the idea behind doing them, and I do want to do them again in the future, is that there's like this uh sometimes there's always like in the writing community this like, oh, I have to get up and write, oh, I have to do this, and it's kind of like, no, let's feel good about this, let's feel motivated to write, let's
Right.
let's do this thing that we love doing. And my background is in counseling, so I try to find ways to think about like the writer's mental health and kind of attribute that
Mhm.
to writing. And that's kind of how I was trying to maybe separate myself from other author tubers, booktubers that are kind of out there.
Right.
That's
That's very cool. I think a lot of writers struggle with that. With
Yeah.
you know, they want to write, but they don't have motivation
Hmm.
to just sit their butt in a chair and write it. They just
Hmm.
prefer to daydream or think about it,
Hmm.
or they're just so inundated with daily life they just feel like sitting down and writing is like a waste of time or something.
Yeah, and sometimes I try to replace the idea of motivation with discipline too. It's an idea I kind of got from Jocko Willink. If you've never heard of him, he's like a huge motivational discipline kind of speaker kind of guy. He's like a Navy SEAL or whatever. When he talks, you
Mhm.
just feel like you have to do something after you hear him talk. Um, but he's very much into this idea of discipline, and it's about like getting up and doing it even if you don't want to do it, and then eventually you will have the freedom in your schedule to do the things that you want to do. But his big thing is discipline equals freedom. It's kind of like the idea behind that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mhm.
It's my wife listens to Michael Hyatt. I'm sure you've heard of him
Yeah, yeah.
if you're in the motivational stuff. Yeah, and she listens to Pat Flynn, and she read this one book called Essentialism. I
Mm.
can't remember the author's name, but it's supposed to be really good. Now, see, I'm probably going to be mixing this up. She might pop in here and correct me. But I think it's basically, focusing on the one thing that you do well. That's probably the one thing. That's probably the book that I'm thinking of. But
Mm.
anyway, it's a lot of what she listens to and reads about is a lot about discipline and focusing your efforts and narrowing down your focus and not
Mm.
trying to do too many things, but trying to
Yeah.
figure out exactly what is it you want to do, what is it you're good at, and how much energy are you putting into that as opposed to other things that
Hmm.
are just sucking up your energy and wasting your time.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea. Setting up like what your priority is instead of what your priorities are.
Yeah,
I'm stealing
yeah,
that from somewhere. I've heard that somewhere before. And when I first heard that,
yeah,
I was like, yeah, that makes 100%. That's right. Like, what is my
yeah.
priority for today? How can I get that done? And then, that can go lower on the list once I've done the stuff I need to do for it and something else could come up. But that focus, you're right. That finding that focus.
Sorry, my computer's going really slow.
No, that's
Let's
okay.
see if I can get some stuff. Okay. I think that might have helped. Okay. So, um, so you actually don't have anything published yet, but you've been working on something. How long have you been working on your book?
I've been
If
working
I
on
may
it.
ask,
Huh?
if I may ask that.
Okay. No, that's okay. I've been working on it for roughly 2 years now. Um, Before this book, I had started another one a little bit, and then I was like, this is too big for me. So I decided to do this other idea that I had that's a little bit smaller on scale, if you will. The other one's more of like an epic fantasy type thing. Then I was like, this is getting too big. I can't do this yet. And so I decided to I need to write something a little bit more, something I can control a little bit more.
Mhm.
So I've been
Yeah.
working on it for about 2 years. I finished the first draft and now I'm kind of going through again and looking at, looking at like my outline and making sure things are kind of working, changing a few things that I didn't quite like, kind of in that second draft reworking it stage is where I'm at right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, my wife popped in. So she says it's the one thing. That's the book. But the idea I'm talking about is from Free to Focus,
Okay. Yep.
Desire Zone. So you know that one.
I've not read that, but I'll have to look that up.
Yeah. Um, so, uh, so I forget if you said it on air or not. Did you what genre are you writing this newest book in?
This one is probably mostly going to fall into the science fantasy, um, er, but I or science fiction, sorry. But it is kind of like it takes place in a kind of tribal setting that uses technology. So I still say it's science fiction, but it does kind of mix fantasy a little bit with it because I like to mix things. Um,
Yeah,
but
that's cool.
I would definitely. I mean,
So,
if I'm going to sell it as a science fantasy or a science fiction, is probably what I would sell it as a genre or whatever.
yeah, yeah, that's cool. Uh, so it's kind of like almost like a kind of Wakanda type of setting,
A little bit.
almost.
I was describing it to my friend because I originally, one of my good friends, James Lucy, I originally described it to him as as a tribal superhero origin story, and he's like, "That kind of sounds like Black Panther." I'm like, "You're right, but but they're a lost tribe. They're not a." And I started trying to think about it, and I was like, if you think that story they tell you at the beginning of Black Panther, where the meteor falls and that tribe, the tribes kind of fight over it. Um,
Yeah, I think I remember that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's more on when that happens. More not that the tribes fight, but the technology has just kind of happened to the tribe now, and maybe it's
Okay.
just a few years later, and they're kind of adapted it a little bit now, and uh, more things happen as the story goes on with technology and things of that nature.
So what's the so that's the setting. So what's the basic plot of your book,
The
or
Yeah, the basic idea for the book, I have to kind of start with where I started from was kind of I wanted to write a book for my sons because I have 3 sons now, um, and what I want to do is kind of write a book for them and kind of what does it mean to be a man, that kind of stuff, but tell it as a story, not as a you know books here's to be a man, chapter one, you have to do this, that kind of
yeah,
thing. I wanted to write kind of
yeah,
tell a story, and from there it's evolved a little bit more from there. But the basic idea or the basic story is you're following this young boy. His name is Olin. The world is very kind of Aztec-y, so there's a lot of Aztec names and kind of things like that. They're like a pre-Aztec tribe, if you will, but in a different universe. um, but so the story is following him, and there's eventually a point in the story where he becomes an amputee. He loses his arm and his leg, and so he's dealing with now he's no longer able to uh, be a hunter in the normal sense of what it means to be a hunter in his tribe, because he can't go out and hunt these bigger beasts, and so he's trying to find his worth within the tribe. Um, and then we kind of explore that idea, and then we explore some technology that comes in that basically guns, if you will, futuristic guns kind of come in, which kind of opens a new door for him, because he couldn't have bows and arrows. So we kind of follow this adventure about kind of after the store opens for him, what kind of happens to the tribe, what happens to these mechanical beasts that are out there that are kind of that have killed people in the tribe,
Hmm.
and
That's
the
interesting.
story kind of ensues from there. Something else about the setting is like the idea is like they were an untouched tribe, which means like nobody had contact and stuff with them, and then a war came in, um, and it was like advanced humans with guns and all these kinds of different futuristic type weaponry against these kind of machines, and so it's the aftermath of the war is now past, but there's still machines in the forest, there's still technology in the woods, and so that's kind of where that kind of aspect kind of comes in with the story.
Okay, so this it's these two. So this tribe was just this normal,
Mhm.
untechnologically advanced tribe, but then these wars came in, and because of the wars, they got the technology.
Yep, yep. So they're trying to deal with the technology. They're how do they use the
Hmm.
technology to hunt, or whatever it is that they're trying to do with it, deal with the
That's cool.
aftermath. Yeah. So I thought it was fun to play with that. I thought it would be fun to play with that idea. I mean, the idea has been done before, I think, a little bit, but I kind of want to put my own kind of spin on it and uh, kind of see where I could take it. It was the idea.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's like 99% of stories. It's like, hey, I like this idea, but I want to do it this way.
Hmm.
Have you heard of Galaxy's Edge?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Their stuff is it's basically their whole thing is they wanted to do stormtroopers in Afghanistan, but stormtroopers that could actually hit things.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think
yeah,
that's.
it's. I mean, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I think that's pretty cool just to like take something that, especially for like beginners books and stuff like that, take or beginning authors that kind of take that kind of idea and play with something that's from another world and change up the idea. And some books, like I think, what is it, Red Shirt was written off the idea of like Star Trek, or written off the idea of other kinds of things. Just take those ideas and expand upon them and show them in a new way. I think that's the
Right.
great thing about writing, is that you know ideas are cheap, but what you do with them, how you execute them, is how what makes them more powerful. Hey,
Yeah,
that's how I see
that's
it
what
at
makes it.
least. Yeah.
Yeah. So is this going to be a one book, one? Yeah, I think of the term.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
it going to be one book? Is it going to be a series or?
This one, I th- as I only recently have I thought of an idea for a second book, if I even decide to do a second book for it, because originally it's going to be, I think, a standalone, I think is the word we were looking for.
Yeah,
um
yeah.
I think originally it was going to be a standalone. It might be two books. I have thought of a prequel trilogy for it, which would talk about more of the world where the soldiers came from, kind of a thing,
Oh, that's cool.
and
Yeah,
talk about like it would focus on a character that is in this book too, but it might talk about like the pre-war and like what happened and stuff like that. That's an idea that I'm playing with right now. So, as you write stuff, you just get random ideas for things.
oh yeah,
So I was like,
yeah.
yeah, we could try it.
So
We could.
speaking of that, we were talking a little bit before the show. What are you currently at? Are you a pantser? Are you a plotter? Where are you at?
I I I think that I plants my plots. uh, no, that doesn't make any sense. But
No,
I kind of
it does.
I kind of take this idea of I think of what my big moments of the stories are going to be, or what I want to happen, and I try to ask the question. And I stole this from Brandon Sanderson. Is I try to ask myself, how do I deserve getting to these big places? And so I think in a way like
Mm.
that's making an outline, but I also think that it's kind of like you're almost pantsing an outline a little bit in that case too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I've heard people. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, 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 no. I was just gonna say that, especially with the second draft, though, um, definitely going through and rebuilding the outline to make sure I'm hitting, like, making sure it makes sense is helping out a lot more. It's a little bit more work, but it is kind of helping me to make sure that, okay, does this line of thinking work when I'm trying to make this particular thing happen or whatever it is. So I probably am more of an outliner in that sense. So
So so you write the first draft
mhm.
with the beats, the ideas that you have in your head for these different
Mhm.
things, asking yourself these questions, and then once you write the first draft, you outline it, the second draft, using what you've already written. Is that what you're saying?
That I think that's my process, yeah, right now.
No, that's cool. I've actually had to do something similar. I'm writing the sequel to my book right now, and it's I mean, I wrote all these cool scenes. I thought, oh, this is cool, this is cool.
Mhm.
But then it's like I looked over what I've written. And it's like, okay, they're going to this location, and they're coming back, and they're going back to that location. It doesn't really make sense. And so I had to actually, I can't plot beforehand because I can't. I have trouble with logic and
Mhm.
keeping things on track. So I just mostly pants. Um, but in this case, I had to go back and just plot out these different points of what I've written and what I wanted to keep and what I didn't care about, and kind of arrange it on paper and just look at it and see, okay, what would make more sense with this. And then I had to run it by my wife because I'm too close to the project. And then, uh, so that's something similar to what sounds like what you're doing. You
Mhm.
said that works pretty well for you.
So far it is, yeah. We'll have to see if when I go and write the next book if that's the case or not. But I'm trying to keep track of what works or what is working for me so that I can try to reproduce it again if I can. That's the that's the idea anyways. I think your wife said
That's
uh,
cool.
it's so hard to explain your
Oh,
process to someone else who you haven't had to before, and that's true.
yeah, that's very true. Yeah, I should practice that.
That's true.
So, did you have plans for other things beyond your epic fantasy and your this one you're doing work on right now?
Oh my. Yeah. I have I have
What
a
a question, huh?
I have a folder, um, and basically it starts with ideas, and they're just like segmented ideas for like just things that I think would be like a cool scene to a cool like
Mm.
uh concept I want to explore. And then I have like 15 little folders that are like all the books that I want to that I want to do. I have this um in this book, the book that I'm working on is part of this huge kind of universe kind of thing that I'm working on. I call it the World Riggers, and it's about this planet that like in essence builds other worlds to test different magics, to help with a war that's kind of going on behind the scenes, um, and different things
Wow,
like that.
that's cool.
So there's a huge bigger universe that almost all my books will probably be connected to in some way. Then I can have a bigger story that goes on in the background, as well. So
That is awesome.
so I have a
Yeah,
lot. I
I good.
I was just gonna I don't know what I was gonna say, so I'll pass it to you.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say that I'm planning something similar with my own books.
Mm,
Like I've got the epic fantasy that I'm writing series that I'm writing right now, and I've got some short stories that are tying into the main series.
mhm.
But I've also got a space opera series planned, as well as high school superhero young adult series that
Nice.
I'm working on. Hey, Rose says that's crazy cool. So
Yeah.
you got one fan.
Yay!
Uh, but I had thoughts of like, writing all these series and then at some point, tying them all together
Mhm.
through a single character that can actually alter reality.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
so anyway, I've had like loose thoughts about it, but nothing concrete. Probably
Mhm.
nothing on the scale of what you've already
Well,
thought through and stuff.
it's every time I have an idea for it, I write it in this book I call the World Riggers Encyclopedia. Uh, as I call it in my head. So
Nice.
I have a basic because I kind of like you, I do have one character that will kind of uh that I'll center on for like for the huge saga. And so I kind of have like because we'll see her from a young girl to like an old woman as the story goes.
Mhm.
So I have like different points in her life that'll kind of take place, and I try to center. I I loosely kind of think about like where a book might take place in her life and kind of put that on, figure out how she might play into the book or not. She's not in my first book, but there is some stuff going on that alludes to her world and things like that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
I should.
No, I don't know. I don't know. I keep saying yeah, and then I'm like, I sound really arrogant when I say that. So I'll just
Hey,
go
no,
all in.
I mean, it's cool. Yeah, there you go. It's cool to you because otherwise you wouldn't be writing it.
It's true,
And that's the thing. It's like I've heard so many authors. I've heard Chris Fox on his videos say that if you're not actually Nick Cole, who's one of the authors of Galaxy's Edge, he said if you're not writing what you enjoy, if you're not playing with your action figures in the dirt, then you shouldn't be writing it.
I would agree with
You
that.
should be writing. Yeah, it's. I think so many people think that they have to write. Like, not to say Chris Fox is wrong and right to market, because there's definitely value to that.
Yeah.
I think so many people get caught up on the right to market idea that they feel like they have to write this book this way, regardless of whether they want to or not, and it just comes out so much less than it could be if they just wrote what they loved.
That's true. I've only read Chris Fox's his like how to sell book stuff, like the 5,000 words and one day, and I've read a couple of those ones, but his other ones are on my list, but I haven't read them yet, and I'm hoping that when I get to them, they're not just like a formulaic kind of thing. And I can't say anything because I haven't read them yet, but that's kind of what I hope, that they're not that way, but they sound like they might be when I hear him like talk about it. But there is I think his he recently wrote a new one. It's like a little goblin or something like that. That one seemed like he had a little bit more fun with that one when he was. At least that's what it looks like to me. Yeah. It seemed like he was having fun with that one. And the other ones sound like really cool ideas because they mix. I mean, I'm really into mixing science and fantasy, and I think it's like magic guns fighting dragons in space or something like that, or is his other books. So I can only imagine that would be fun. I just hope that they are once I get to them on my list.
Yeah, he's a bit more military sci-fi, and I'm not into military sci-fi. I say that from an outside perspective because I haven't read his book, so I don't know that specifically, but I think that's what he writes.
I think so too, but I'm not sure.
Sci-fi. Yeah, I think it's military sci-fi in space with, like you said, dragons and deceased gods and stuff like that.
Yeah,
which is weird. But I forgot what I was gonna say about that. But yeah, I haven't read his books either. What I've learned by listening to all the podcasts I've listened to and the YouTube videos I've watched is that each author has a system that works for them, and so I've been trying to take bits and pieces from these guys' different suggestions, and like, this is how you do it. I'm like, well, no, that's how you do it. It's not how I do it necessarily. And just trying to take that and see, okay, I can use this piece, I can use that piece. And that's part of the reason for this show, is so I could talk to other authors, find out what their process is, their daily process, because I struggle. I have a full family. I got 3 kids and a wife, and it's struggle to do that, to balance that with a full-time job and still kick out enough words to actually make some progress. So I've tried to do that with this novel. I've tried to more just kind of get the words down and not so much worry about the details. But I'm thinking that's not working because my wife.
I saw it pop up.
Yep. Yeah. So I'm missing out on a lot of the details that I'm finding it harder to insert the details, to go back in and insert the details later because the story's already written. So it's hard for me to like detach from that.
I think that is that's one of the hard things too, is as I'm writing the second book and changing something significantly, there's some things that I decided that I wanted to change. And I forget who said it, but like, it's hard to, like, once you write down the first draft, it's hard to change it because it almost becomes like concrete, because in your mind, this is how it should be. Like, this is how the story has to be. And it's hard to kind of break and change that mold once you've put it down first. And I think he was talking in favor of outlining. That's why you should outline, because so you don't have to worry about these. If you're more of like that concreter kind of idea person, it makes it once you start writing it, it makes it harder to change it later.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I know. That was him. I don't know. As I'm doing it,
Yeah,
I find
I
that
remember.
true a little bit. Like there's some things like once I write it down, I go, do I really want to change this? Because then I might have to change this other idea. But
Yeah,
with
I
like
guess there's some truth.
go ahead.
I guess there's some truth to that.
Yeah.
Um, but I forgot what I was gonna say again. Oh well.
That's okay.
Oh, that's what I was gonna ask you. So you said you're writing the second book. Do you mean the first in your fantasy sci-fi series, or are you actually writing the second in that series while you're writing the first?
You said I had a second.
You said I'm writing this book,
Mhm.
or did you mean second draft?
Second draft is what I mean. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I was going to ask you if you were going to do the rapid release type of. I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah, I've heard of it before. I mean, I'd like to be able to do something like that if to release several books at a time, but um, I don't know if I will or not. I don't. We'll have to see how that kind of process goes down the road. I mean, my ultimate plan, as we're kind of going into publishing stuff, is my goal is to be with one of the big five, like Tor or something, something like that.
Oh yeah,
That's the dream. Um, because if not, at least to me, if I can't be one of the big five, then I might as well self-publish.
right.
Because what what are any of the other companies going to be able to do for me that I can't that that I wouldn't have to do if I went through them anyways? If
Right.
if you're not going to be able to market me, then what's the point of you being a publisher for me? Like I mean that's just my view of it. And at least the big five has name recognition, and I'm sure other perks and things like that. Um, I've never published with them, so I don't really know, but at least that's my thought process when it comes to that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I vacillated a long time about whether I want to go self-publishing
Mm-hmm.
or traditional, and I just decided that self-publishing would give me a lot more control.
That's true.
And from what I understand, traditional, you still have to market. Now, the good thing is about traditional is that you don't have to pay for an editor.
Mm-hmm.
They do that for you. They don't have to pay for cover art. So the upfront costs are a lot cheaper. I remember watching a video of Brandon Sanderson, and he's saying that he was giving an example of self-publishing versus traditional. And traditional, you'll get a lot less royalties, but then they'll be able to get your books into stores a lot easier,
Yeah,
and they can put your name out there a lot easier.
that's true.
Whereas you get more royalties with self-publishing, but it's a lot more work to get your name out there. So it's like it might be an even split. So it's hard
Yeah.
to tell unless you do it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one of the things too about self-publishing is it does take a lot of work. As I'm sure you know, self-publishing
Oh, yeah.
your book, and getting name recognition out there and getting your book on a shelf, things like that. There's the things you have to weigh out once you get to that point. And like I said, I think I'm going to try to go traditional, but we'll see. I guess I like the idea because I've talked to a couple other people about this. The idea of kind of having a gatekeeper, because there's a lot of Amazon books out there that are just. I don't mean to be mean, but they're just not good. Or, like they're not edited
Oh, yeah.
well and things like that. Um, and I think Chris Fox even said this, like set the expectation. Like the reason some books are $1.99 or whatever the lowest is set to be, because I only paid $1.99 for a book. It doesn't have to be that great. I don't want to waste my time on a book that's not that great. I've bought books at the
Right.
store and not liked them, and so I put them down and I go on with my life and read a different book or whatever. So I don't think it's good to flood the market with not so great books, and I think that in the long run that can hurt companies. I have a background in video game design, and one of the big things was, I think it was in the 80s, there was like a big video game crash because everybody from like McDonald's to Kool-Aid to whatever were coming out with video games, and they were all awful. And the parents didn't know which video games were awful or not. They just see Kool-Aid and McDonald's and think, "Oh, this is an awesome book, or this is an awesome game, so let's buy it." And then the market got so saturated that nobody wanted to buy video games anymore. And then there was like a big crash. I think it was in the 80s, this huge crash, and it didn't come back out until Nintendo came out with the NES. And I know this is supposed to be about books, but like I guess my overall idea,
fine,
yeah, my overall idea is like if we oversaturate the market, eventually people are going to be a little bit more weary about buying those $2.99 books and things like that. And I think if I went self-publishing, I might not do $2.99. I might just make it $10, but then that could affect my sales because everybody else is doing $2.99. Why would I pay $10 for his book? You know what I mean? Like it sounds like a headache, but it's also that like in my head, it's like, do we need those gatekeepers there sometimes too? And I think it's just figuring that out for yourself as the writer. Like, what can you do best for your book, I guess, is the way I want to say it. I don't know.
No, I agree with you. I think there is something to be said for gatekeepers. You know, you hear a lot, no more gatekeepers, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's good for those people who are actually writing good quality stuff that can't seem to get their stuff out there.
Exactly.
But on the other side, there's a reason there's gatekeepers because so many people write so much bad stuff. I've written such bad stuff before.
I write bad
so
stuff.
glad. I write stuff with huge plot holes you could drive a truck through, and I don't see them until my wife says, "What about this?" And it's like, oh, you know,
isn't that awful when that happens?
Yeah. No, it's good because she caught it before it goes to print.
That's true. That is very true. I guess that is. You want somebody that can call you out on those things.
Yep. But yeah, it's like I think that just calls us to, as authors, to step up and to make sure that we are producing the best quality product that we can, and not just like, oh, this is good enough, you know, let's throw it out there. There's a Michael Anderle, I don't know if you've heard of him. He has a thing about called minimum viable product.
Oh yeah.
And I'm a little hazy on the definition of that as far as he defines it, but it seems to me, you know, like get something that's good enough quality, and then get it out there. And I don't think I totally agree with that. Yeah, I think that you can. There's a point of diminishing return where you can't just edit and you know, forever, because then you never get the book out there. You always gotta find something wrong. But I think there's like a point where you need to set your own standards to like higher than you know, than what you normally would. You know, reach for that higher bar so that you can put out a good quality product as best as you can.
Yeah, I think is this the best book I can write right now? I think is sometimes what I've heard other people say is like, yeah, in the future you might have been able to write this book better, but right now, is this the best book that you can write? In that kind of idea of like, you know, this is what I can do, this is what I can get out, instead of like, what is the most minimal, you know. I guess in my head it would just be like if you just did a book that was like pure the hero's journey. Now, not that the hero's journey is not bad. I think I love the hero's journey, but if you just that was if you just went pure with that, I don't know what that would look like, but that would be kind of it could be a boring story unless you added some things to it to flavor it up and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah. I've heard a lot of people talk about. That's the other thing, is that I've heard people complain about how authors like adding fluff to their novels just to like make it longer or something like that.
Yeah.
And I never want to do that. And I can't really conceive how someone could do that, you know, because I think it would kill the story.
Oh yeah.
Or just make it drag on something.
For sure, it mess with like the pacing and all those kinds of different things to add fluff.
Oh, sorry.
You're okay.
So you got the 2 books out. Oh, I'm sorry, 2 books out. off on a train of thought. So you got the one book. um, do you have a goal of like when you're going to release it, or when you're going to start sending it out to publishers?
I would like to by the end of the year be looking for an agent. That's kind of where I feel like I'm at. I have some goals, like at least in the second draft, finishing up the new outline by the end of this month, and then really working on the chapters, the set, making sure all those are written to the way that I kind of want to. Uh, Now that I'm thinking about it, might take longer than till the end of the year, but and then like getting it, making sure I edit it appropriately and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of have a plan about how I'm going to write it. Like, I'm about before it's ready for beta readers is kind of how I'm doing it right now. I'm about 35% of the way there when it comes to that, at least how I'm trying to schedule it. I'm gonna hit a light in my room because I lost my sunlight.
Yeah.
So give me a second.
Okay. So what happened there?
There we go.
There we go. Yeah, darn sun setting when we're not ready for it.
Oh yeah.
So you mentioned beta readers. Do you already have a group of beta readers that you're that are willing to read your book, or do you know how to find those? I've had a lot of trouble with that.
Yeah, I have one good friend who's also a writer that reads all my stuff, and I read his stuff too. So I mean, he's one beta reader. And then I have another friend. She's like really good at editing and things like that. I've sent stuff to her before to edit, and she's like almost professional, but she doesn't charge or anything, so I love it. Because she likes reading and all that kind of stuff. So I have two people, and then I guess my wife as well. She'll read it as well. As I'm not to that point yet, but I do plan on eventually like looking up for beta readers. I know there's like things on Facebook, like certain Facebook groups where if you ask, some people will volunteer. I think, is it Book Hub? I think some people on there, I can't think of it right, if that's the right website or not, where people will do stuff like that. I've done some vague research into it. I haven't done any huge steps into looking for beta readers yet. So mostly because I want to kind of be closer to being done before I'd be like, hey, I want to read my book, and then like 5 months later say, hey, you said you wanted to read my book.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah, I've looked. I'm terrible at research on the internet for some reason. I type in, frying pan, and I get a picture of a truck. So but I've tried to find beta readers, and I found there's groups on Goodreads.
Mm-hmm.
They'll do it for paid or do it for free. There are, I think I'm part of a Facebook group, beta readers and critiques or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Probably better to find someone in your genre, but yeah, I've had trouble finding people that would be willing to beta read for me. Might be because I write epic fantasy and it's 140,000 words long. So
yeah, that could be, but I think if people are really into it, they'll do it too. But I've also something I've been wanting to do too is set up or be more consistent at a writing group. And I think we can get some beta readers in that too. And there's a writing group near my area, about 30 minutes away from where I'm at. And I think I'll eventually will probably join it when I feel maybe a little bit more confident with my stories, with, hey, I have chapter 1 and now I have chapter 2 5 weeks later, that kind of a thing. So I feel like when I'm more ready for that beta stage, I might get it, join those type of groups more. Mostly because of time constraints. I don't want to be kind of like a waste to the group either, be like I said, here's chapter 1, then next time come in and be like, I don't have anything new for you, that kind of stuff. So
it totally makes sense. I mean, very considerate. How did you wind up finding that group? Did you find it on a website, or because I've
Yeah,
had trouble finding it in my local area?
yeah. There was a local bookstore, and they just had an advert. Like I went there one day just because they had like a book sale or something, and then I saw like they just had an advertisement for it. It was like uh, they had like writing classes, but then they also had a beta readers club where they sometimes they just meet together and they write together. And that's all they do. Like they have like how many words can you get out? You know, who can get the most words
Oh yeah,
typed in, and they do stuff like that. So that was just that. It was by luck, really, that I found it. I don't know if something I might look at is meetup.com. They might have some on that website, but I haven't really searched meetup.com to see if there's any local readers around me or not.
yeah. I think I checked out that website. I think you have to pay for it or something
Yeah,
like
I think
that.
so. Yeah, I think that's probably why I haven't searched too much on it.
Yeah, that's so annoying. I mean, it's their site; they can do what they want with it, but it's kind of annoying. Hey, I found this great site. I could find any meetup I want. Oh, I gotta pay money to find it. No,
Yeah,
never mind.
yeah, that's kind of like how I am.
Yeah. Um, See, this is the great thing about having ADD. You just forget things all the time.
Oh, that's
It's
okay.
fun. Yeah.
I'm not the host. I don't care. That's
Yeah. Oh, fun. I see how you are. I love the T-shirt, by the way.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I'm
Yeah.
proud of my Zelda-ness.
Yep. So I've thought about the idea of like doing writer meetups like over the internet, like something like this, but having like multiple writers.
Oh yeah.
I'm not how I would organize that though.
I hear a lot of people using a Discord, but I don't know anything about Discord, so.
Yeah, that name keeps popping up, so I'm gonna have to check that out.
Mm-hmm. I'd definitely be interested in something like that over online and things like that. I think one of the things that turning in information I can do. I think one of the things that sometimes holds me back is reading everybody else's stuff too. Like
Yeah.
that's the part. It's like, do I have time to do that? Am I able to? And like we were talking about like way at the beginning. That's part of the reason I just kind of gave up social media for now, is that it was taking a lot of my mental energy and my creative energy to make stuff, even just for Instagram or sometimes like a post. It's just taking up that time that I could be using to write and stuff like that. And it was interesting, even though it's something simple, how much time it actually did take away from my writing. And when I decided not to do it anymore, my writing kind of changed, if you will. Kind of, I got more of it done. I got more thoughts out and things like that.
Yeah, well, your brain energy is being used up by trying to figure out, the social media and trying to do this post and that post and schedule that. And also, my wife got pretty heavily into it, and because she's also a writer.
She does blogging, doesn't she?
She does
like
do
mothers
blogging,
or something like that. I don't know
yeah.
exactly.
She's her blog. She's not really a blogger. She's more of she's a mom life coach because she's. So when she was a mom, she didn't have a lot of help, and she didn't have anyone to guide her to help her to know what to do and how to handle this new little human being that was crying at her all the time. So she has a real heart for moms who are struggling, and so she wants to help coach them through it because she's been a mom for 10 years now, so she's got a little bit of experience. And as she learns, she wants to share that knowledge with other moms who are struggling. So yeah, if you know a mom who's struggling, check out our site, rosebarnett.com, free plug.
There, positive points for the husband.
There you go, brownie points. But
she must not be listening anymore. I don't see anything in the chat for her.
Yeah,
So.
I'm sure she'll come back and watch and be like, hey. So she's working on her first book, a nonfiction book to help moms.
Nice.
But then, she's also, she and I are planning co-authoring a book or a couple books. I'm not sure how we're going to arrange it yet. Based around a couple characters from my main series. So that's been a lot of fun, just kind of throwing around ideas with her. I completely forgot why I started mentioning that she was a writer. What were we talking about? Oh, social media.
Yeah.
So she was a lot into social media. thing because to be have success and make money at a blog, you got to supposedly you have to get on Pinterest, you got to get on Instagram, you got to get on Facebook and do all this stuff, and it's just eating up her time, it's dividing her attention. And she finally had to just decide, okay, I have to back off. Like we were talking before about narrowing your focus, she had to figure, okay, what is it I'm trying to do? What does I need to do, and what do I need to cut out? And she found that when she did that stuff, she used to get a lot of views on her blog. Well, she cut that out and just started focusing more on certain things. And just last week, she was telling me how many people are visiting her blog, and it's like more than it used to be when she was doing all the social media stuff.
It's great.
Yeah, I think that we hear all that hype about social media, and there's some merit to it.
Yeah,
but I don't think it's as necessary as people think that it is.
That's true. I think that's finding the balance and using it to work for you instead of working for it.
Yeah, that's the challenge, and don't be a slave to anything, be master over things in your life.
Exactly.
Yeah. So once you finish this book and you maybe write the second one, do you think you'll head back to epic fantasy, or do you think you'll just stick with this one? Do you think you'll pick up on your videos? What's in the future for you?
In the future for me, well, the hope is to get this published by awesome top 5 company, as we talked about earlier, and then the idea would be from there. I got a couple other books. I might jump to my epic fantasy, but I do have another story idea that I might jump into as well. And I'm kind of stealing this from Brandon Sanderson, but I don't want my fans to get used to me like this is the only book that he publishes. I want them to be like, I published this one, and then I can publish this type, and then I can do this type, because a lot of people get stuck in that they have to write the same character in the same kind of book, if you will, over and over again for the fans. And if you love doing that, that's great, and that's fine. I just don't want to be stuck into doing that if it's something I don't want to do, because eventually you're if you become a professional author, your living does depend on your books. So I kind of want to set that up early, and that's something that I'm totally stealing from him. That idea of like different types of books that are coming out. So when they have the Jonathan Morton fans, they know what to expect.
Yeah, that's part of the reason I'm writing my other stuff, because I want to write all these other stories.
Yeah,
and I don't want to be stuck in this epic fantasy. Although I love epic fantasy. I don't want to. I have all these other stories, and I don't want to have written this series and then, okay, now I'm going to work on this genre, and then I lose all my readers.
Where you have to change your name and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah, no, I don't want to do it. I thought about a pen name. I was like, no, I don't. I think I'm just going to do my same name for everything. And there are successful authors, indie and traditional, that use their same name, and they write in all types of different genres, and they're successful.
Exactly. I think nowadays it's a lot easier to do, because I think in the past people they expected that certain, you're an author of this genre, that's what you do. And I think nowadays people are more fans of the authors. If I think that makes sense how I said that. Yeah, I think you can get away with it more nowadays than maybe 15 years ago or so.
Yeah, I wonder if that's due to social media, because it seems like
probably
the focus has shifted to entertainers rather than the actual entertainment. It's like people are a fan of let me take an old reference, Usher, because he's Usher and they like his music. Or people might be a fan of Stephen King because he's Stephen King.
Yeah.
Well, they don't necessarily read all those genres,
Does Stephen King write anything but horror?
Yeah, he wrote Dark Tower series.
Oh yeah. I forgot about that.
I haven't read it. I kind of want to read it though, just from all that I've heard about it. I haven't seen the movie. I've heard the movie's not very good, but
that's what same here.
Yeah, but Keystroke. Listen to Keystroke Medium one night. I heard the host. He was talking about how the series starts and then how the series ends, and just kind of the way he shaped it and molded it. It's like, wow, that sounds really cool, actually.
I was gonna say, at least the idea sounded really cool to me, from what I've heard of it, and it's on my list. But I could say that for a lot of books, though. It's on my list to read.
Yeah, I just want to read a fantasy story about a gunslinger.
Yeah, I mean that's what that I was like, yeah, that sounds cool. I'll go with that.
Yeah, yeah. I've loved the idea of like the old West gunslinger type of character,
Hmm.
and I really liked the idea of taking him and putting him in another setting.
Oh yeah,
Uh, yeah, like putting him in a space opera
is
or
that
something
like
like that.
mixing? Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen. There's a couple different ones. There's a couple animes, Outlaw Star,
Outlaw
and
Star is my favorite anime.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. I love the old West feel to that, the space western
Hmm.
type of. And I was gonna say Cowboy Bebop, but I've realized recently that that's more of a noir
Yeah.
type of
I mean,
thing.
I like it, but yeah, I like the more westerner style.
Yeah.
There may or may not be grappler ships in my one of my books, and there
I
may or
tried to think about that. In my space opera, like, okay, do I want to have blaster bolts or do I want to have bullets or both, or do I want to have grappler tips? Does that make sense? What was the, it's like,
I
okay,
I
these are cool, but would they work?
I'm going to claim right now grappler ships versus kaiju. That's my idea. Nobody else can claim it. Okay.
Versus
I
kaiju? What is kaiju?
this
Okay,
is
it's been a
like
while
a
since.
like Godzilla stuff like
Oh,
that.
okay,
Yeah. So grappler ships versus things like Godzilla. I've claimed
that's
it.
awesome.
It is my idea.
You heard it here first, folks.
You've heard it here first. If any grappler ships come out against kaiju in the future, it better have my name on it.
That's right. Doggone it. Gene Star one's going down the throat of Godzilla and blowing a hole in his head. See, now I'm gonna have to read your stuff when it comes out. You have a title?
um, it's had two working titles so far. The first one was Cyborg Tiger, which was because it was an idea from my son where he wanted to be a cyborg tiger and he hunted me. So that's where the idea came from. Um, and then I call it now. It's called Olin's Path, which because that's the name of the main character. Uh, but I probably will change it. I just haven't thought of a good title yet. I'm still trying to. I want to have a title that like asks a question. So like in my head, like the book The Way of Kings makes me go,
Yeah,
well, what is the Way of Kings? Like what
right.
like so I'm trying to think of a good title that might ask a question. And at least in where I'm at in the story, I haven't quite figured that out yet. What I might call this thing. so, so it's just
Yeah.
kind of like Project Cyber Tiger or whatever, things like that. So
Yeah, titles are hard. It's hard to come up with some of this stuff sometimes.
yeah.
I uh well, that went out the window. Okay.
I was reading your wife's quote.
Oh, hey, she
So,
said something. Uh oh yeah, that's a good idea actually.
yeah, like flyers at like yeah, you could even ask like a local library.
See,
To
that's
set
why
up
I'm
your
glad
picture
she's married
something.
to me.
Huh?
She's like my brain.
Yeah.
I'd be so lost with that. Well, we're coming up on time. So why don't you tell people where they can find you online?
Okay. If basically on Instagram and Twitter, if you look up Page Master John, and you see a nice picture of a good looking guy with a beard, it's probably me. And and on YouTube, it's just Jonathan Morton. But like I did say, right now, I've kind of almost stopped my social media, so you might not get any new updates or anything currently, but in the future, I do plan on doing more stuff as I get closer to finishing my book and things of that type of nature. So that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Well, Jonathan, it's been a blast. Thanks for coming on. And
Yeah, no problem at all. It's been a lot of fun.
yeah, I'll look forward to your book and
Thank you.
keep in contact.
We'll do. We'll
Um,
do for sure.
Thanks for Rose for coming out and hanging out in the live chat, and anyone else that was there that didn't speak. Uh, until next time, keep reading and keep writing.